Okay, so last time we were learning about the difference between the redemption of the Alter Rebbe and the Mittler Rebbe, and we gave the following analogy. In a Sanhedrin, a Jewish court, I won't show you. In a Jewish court, there are two opinions about how a decision is made. One opinion is that we go by the majority opinion, and the majority opinion is the does all and ends all, and the minority opinion has to acquiesce to the majority opinion. So really the decision is made by the majority, and the minority just has to follow along. That's one way of looking at the way the decision is made. Another way of looking at it is that the minority opinion, since the Torah says you should go by the majority rule, the minority opinion actually becomes part of the majority opinion. It's not that they are just subservient and we follow them, we ignore the minority and they follow the majority. Rather, the minority opinion is a part of the decision. It's not that we ignore them; it's rather they are considered part and parcel of the majority opinion. In a similar way, there is the two different kinds of peace. Just like Yaakov said when he left his father's home, he asked Hashem to return in peace. Torah says he uses the words Beis Shalom, two kinds of peace. Beis Shalom doesn't just mean in peace, it means with two kinds of peace. There are two kinds of ways that godliness and the world converge. One way is that Hashem, so to speak, overwhelms us with his truth, and we are swept along with it. That's from above to below. A higher kind of peace.
Overwhelms us.
Yeah, overwhelms.
It's true. So that's like when the crazy things are happening.
Yeah. Yeah, some shows you miracles. Some from above to below.
Like I'm not dying right now. It's a miracle. Like what are we saying here?
So there is a general theme of above to below that Hashem is doing, not us. Kind of like when Love makes peace with Yaakov. We learned earlier on in the Sikha how Love made peace with Yaakov, not because he wanted to make peace, because God comes to him in a dream and says to him, you better make peace or else. So there's peace, that's peace from above to below. But afterwards, Love in himself decides to go to Yaakov and to talk to Yaakov and make a covenant with Yaakov. That's already Love's own decision. It's not about God making that decision, that's about his own decision.
It's not part of the Sikha, but it was confusing. Hashem says don't do good or bad.
He still spoke to him anyways.
Doesn't Rashi say like the good is that where the
why love and do it anyways? You wonder why he spoke to him anyways, right? Yeah, I don't know why he spoke to him anyways. I always wonder that. My own conclusion is that he's just a Russian, didn't listen. I don't know. I always wonder. I'm sure that someone asked this question. I know the answer. Anyway, so if there's no divergence, if there's no multiplicity in the first place, then there's no peace. Peace means that there's a convergence of two. So one way that there could be a convergence of two is above to below. So getting back to our discussion about the distinction between the Alter Rebbe and the Mittler Rebbe, we first drew a distinction between the Baal Shem Tov and the Alter Rebbe. Baal Shem Tov, as Hasidim say, he put up the ladder of how to serve God. This is the ladder. This is how you serve God. And although he didn't show people how to climb that ladder necessarily, that's what the Alter Rebbe did, but he did go for revealing our faith in Hashem, revealing our neshama, revealing our soul. Not necessarily how to integrate our soul's perspective into our own human perspective, but just to let go of our human perspective in favor of looking at things and feeling things from the neshama's perspective. So that's peace from above to below. Don't worry about how you feel, how you think. Listen to the voice of your neshama. There's a beautiful niggin, Simu Leiv La Neshama. Put your heart towards your neshama, towards your soul. That's the path of Baal Shem Tov. What's the teachings of Chabad? Teachings of Chabad is different. Teachings of Chabad is I want you to look at this with your own mind, your own perspective, and make this the way you think about things. Not just that you should identify with it. This should actually be the lens look at the world. The Eivish's truth is the way you look at things. So that's the general difference between the Baal Shem Tov and the Alter Rebbe, and we'll see Mirza Hashem how the Mittler Rebbe added something to this. But before we do, let's go to Ois Ches on page 189. Let's see how this affects the Jewish custom of greeting. Whenever a Jew greets another Jew, as we did at last night in Kiddush Levana, one Jew says to another, Shalom Aleichem, greetings to you, and the other Jew responds to you, greetings. Why do we do this? So the joke is that Jews are always arguing. You say Shalom Aleichem, no, I say Aleichem Shalom. But here the Rebbe is going to explain the Hasidic and Kabbalistic meaning of this custom. Let's go to Eis Ches. This explanation of the two kinds of peace explains the Jewish custom that when two Jews meet and one Jew asks the other, Shalom Aleichem, peace unto you, he greets him with peace unto you, the other one responds with, to you, peace. Why is this? Why do we do this for? Hates, right? First of all, how come we're talking about many people over here? Greetings unto you. In English, it sounds like just the singular, but in Hebrew, the word you could be said both in singular and plural. Alecha is the singular, Aleichem is the plural. How come when we're talking to one individual, we say Shalom Aleichem in the plural? Question number one. The Talmud does use the expression greetings upon to you in the singular, my teacher, my master. Question number two. How come the other guy responds to you, peace, the opposite order of the one who begins this conversation? Next page 190. Explanation of this is as follows. When two Jews meet, so there is now a plurality. In Hebrew, the word Rabbim, which means a plurality, it means a multitude. The minimum of application of that definition is when there's two. Two Jews are there, and they don't have the same opinion. So what are two Jews supposed to do when there is a multitude, when there is division, when there is two opinions? The first thing they need to do is to create a unity in that state of division, that state of multiplicity. They have to create a union. And therefore, what does a Jew say to another? First of all, he says the word Shalom. Shalom is the name of God. And it emphasizes this name of God, Shalom. Why is Shalom the name of God? Because Shalom means how there's absolute peace and oneness, and it highlights the truth of Hashem, how Hashem is not complex. Hashem is not made of different components like human beings have arms and ears and feet. Hashem is simple in the sense that there's no division within him. All there is him. So Shalom, peace, is the name of God. And I want, when I meet another Jew, since there's now a multiplicity, I want Shalom Aleichem, that this truth of Hashem, it should rest now in this place. Now that there's more than one, not that there's a status of multiplicity. I want that the truth of Hashem should be in this place of multiplicity. Shalom Aleichem, that Shalom, that the peace of Hashem, that the oneness of Hashem should be in this place of multiplicity. But in this unity between these two parties, there are two stages. Stage number one. When the greeter begins with peace unto you, all that's known in the conversation so far is that he wants there to be peace. But we have a need for the other person to also respond that he wants peace as well. If the responder will use the same language as the greeter, It's possible to think that his response is only acquiescing to the other person's peace, kind of like we're learning before, but above to below. I'm not really interested in this peace, but I'll accept your greetings of peace. Ella, who was it? One of Israeli politicians was speaking about Arafat who said, "I wouldn't put my hand to him in peace." So other politicians said, "I won't extend my hand where it's not going to be greeted." So it's possible that you do extend your hand, but you're only extending your hand because the other person put it out, but not that you yourself want this peace. He's only agreeing and confirming your words. You want peace, so I'll accept that. And therefore, he changes from the words of the greeter and he responds to you peace to emphasize. And not only does he agree to the person's greeting and request there should be unity, request that there should be oneness of the other guy, rather he has his own desire for peace from himself. Aleichem shalom, I want it to be peace. In note 61, the Rebbe mentions a teachings of the Friedrich Rebbe. Ayin Sifar Sichas Shama Darcha Avis Avram Galsa Er Baruch Hu is Alts is Er Baruch Hu. Shem Beis Vani Yichud. It says that Avram Avinu sought to reveal in the world how Hashem is everything and everything is Hashem. So these two expressions, He is everything or everything is Hashem, is the two kinds of unity that we're talking about. There is from above to below, that your first perspective is the Eibishter, and the Eibishter is everything. And so that you're ignoring the natural reality of things in the world, and you're saying only the Eibishter is everything. That's from above to below. Another perspective is from below to above, that you're saying that everything, the heavens and earth that I know about, they're all part and parcel of Hashem's unity. That's from below to above. That's from my perspective. That's the way the world looks at things. I know about the heaven and the earth and the chair and the table and everything that I see. And I say, no, this is all part of Hashem's unity. That's from below to above. So as it is in human beings greeting each other, one starts the peace. The other says, I want peace also from within myself. So too is this true regarding our mission in this world to create unity in the world in general. It's not only that the Shalom Aleichem, Hashem, so to speak, extends his hand in peace, and that Hashem wants to bring his unity to the world, but Hashem wants us to respond, Aleichem Shalom, and to reveal his truth from our own perspective, from our own desire, from our own Voltan Shang, from our own way we look at things. And this is the reason for the order of the two forms of greeting. The first guy says shalom before aleichem. He says peace before he says you, in the plural. He is the one who introduces the peace. The peace is coming from him. He is the one who is demanding and asking that there be peace from above to below. He is the one that is influencing peace from above. But when the other person responds, there's a different dynamic here now. It's not the same dynamic. He's saying to the other guy, it's not that the peace is just coming from you. He's saying this is also my perspective as well. This is our perspective. I just had a dinner with a few people the other night, and one person was suggesting an idea, and he says, I believe. And then he looks to the guy on his right, and we believe. And I'm thinking, 1 second, I believe that too. And we also believe. That's what Aleichem Shalom means. It's not that you want peace. I also look at this the same way. It's us. It's no longer an I and a you. When I say Aleichem Shalom, it's now the new dynamic. It's now with us. Now there's an us. When the guy responds, Aleichem Shalom, what he's really saying is that the Aleichem, what's Aleichem? Aleichem means the you. The you means the plural. The you means the division. The division themselves is peace. Shalom Aleichem means you want to bring peace from your perspective down to the place of division. Aleichem Shalom means that the place of division is a place of peace. There is no place of division anymore. The place of division itself wants it to be peace as well. This is our perspective. So that's why you respond specifically Aleichem Shalom. Okay, now let's figure out how this has to do with the Alter Rebbe, the Mittler Rebbe, and the distinction between these two redemptions. Now we could possibly understand the two kinds of redemption of the Alter Rebbe and the Mittler Rebbe. Both the Alter Rebbe and the Mittler Rebbe recited the verse, God redeem my soul in peace, when they were redeemed. But there's a difference. The Alter Rebbe's redemption, we said, was something that he said because he was saying extra Tehillim, not something that everyone says every single year. Versus when the Mittler Rebbe was redeemed, it was a 10th of Kislev, and every person says the Tehillim, or they're supposed to say, the Tehillim as it's divided according to days of the month on the 10th of Kislev, therefore everyone says Pad B'Shalom. So why is it the Mittler Rebbe's redemption is more associated with Pad B'Shalom than the Alter Rebbe? Ha'uvda she'techunase shal ha'seichel kshur l'riba k'fi shus b'lo specific vav nevas b'ikram tzad habina. Kolei mer mitzad riba ya'pratim eschalko shal rayna seichel. Intellect, logic, is associated with division. As we learned earlier on, how not only does every person have their own perspective, but the very system of logic is to take an idea and to break it up into pieces. That's what, and mainly this happens not in Chachma. Chachma's initial insight into what the idea is, the subject matter is about, but Bina is about taking that initial spark of wisdom and now dividing it into details. That's where division happens. There's not so much division in Chachma. Chachma is kind of like, as compares it to seeing something. When you see something, you see the essence of the experience, you see the essence of what you're looking at. You're not looking at the 1,000 words that it makes up of. In fact, the truth is that Chassidus doesn't say that a picture is 1,000 words. Chassidus says that a picture is more than 1,000 words, because a picture is the way something is beyond its division into 1,000 words. It's about its truth as it is higher than division. There is a way it could be divided into 1,000 words. That's Bina. But the initial perspective, the initial way you look at something, when you see something at first, hey, Yonatan, good morning. When you see something at first, you're the only guy who's not afraid to open their screen. Must be a Georgian thing. Anyways, the initial way that you look at something, you see something, that's Chachma. That's beyond details. Next page, page 191. The fact that we're able to divide a concept into different details allows there to be a divergence of opinion. Erev Zev, good morning too. Good to see your face. When there's details, another thing that happens is there's questions and contradictions. The previous Rebbe famously said, if someone wants to say a lie, they speak in general terms. When can there be an argument? Their arguments begin when there are details. When you're able to enunciate your argument clearly, you say it in the clear words, that's when arguments begin. So the disadvantage of understanding is that there's multiplicity, that there's divergence of opinion, that there's contradictions, that there's questions. On the other end, the perspective of Chachma, the initial insight into an idea, the flash of inspiration, before you know how this flash of inspiration is going to answer your questions. When you're still like Archimedes, jumping naked out of your bathtub, running through the streets of Rome, and you don't, or Greece, before you even know what you've discovered. So that's just the general perspective, the general idea. You don't have any concretized argument or definition of what you know yet. So there's a peace that is achieved through both kind of perspectives. There's a peace that is achieved by the Chassidus of the Alter Rebbe, and there's a peace that is achieved by the Chassidus of the Mittler Rebbe. When you feel the pristine truth of the idea, all the questions fall on the wayside. Although you don't know the answer yet, but when you feel the pristine truth of what's going on, there are no questions. Think about Shmaya Vavtalyan, who taught both Shammai and Hillel. They're both learning from Shammai and Hillel. David, good morning. Good to see your face. Shammai and Hillel had very different opinions. They argued about almost everything.
Shalom Aleichem, Rabbi Levin.
Aleichem Shalom.
Amen.
Although they had different opinions, when they sat before their teachers, Shmaya and Avtalyan, the truths that they were listening to were beyond division. They were listening to pure truths. That there was no arguments. It wasn't like Beis Shammai and Hillel were arguing in class. They were listening to the truth of Shmai and of Tayin as they were pristine, above division, as they were pure, beyond the distinction of the perspective of Shammai and Hillel. At that moment, they all agreed, yeah, whatever our teacher says is right. We hear what our teacher says. They haven't yet converted it into their own persona, their own perspective, and there is peace between Beis Shammai and Beis Hillel. That's one kind of peace. This is because the pointed idea is the truth of the logical idea. It's the general paradigm, the general axiom of this truth. Before you get to all different details and get the general axiom of the truth that you're trying to convey, trying to learn, all the different details of that axiom are all subsumed into that pristine truth of the idea. So from the perspective of Chachma, is there peace? Yes, there's peace. The peace that's created by Chachma is that the multitude, the multiplicity suspends its borders and it looks at things from the perspective of the pristine truth of the idea. Instead of looking at things from a certain angle, you let go of your angle and you listen to the truth of the idea. So it's sort of like you're elevating yourself from your angle and you're listening to something higher than yourself. You're letting go of your perspective to hear the perspective of something more pristine than your own vantage point. You're letting go of your vantage point and trying to hear something that's higher and deeper than yourself. That's what the Alter Rebbe's Chassidus does. It says, listen to the truth of Hashem and don't worry so much about the way that your personal perspective is. It's Chacham. Now, the Alter Rebbe's Chassidus is Chacham, Bina, and Das. But if, just like the world of Atzilus, I shared with you how Rabbi Yoel kindly from Rengon says, let me give you a very grub example, a very coarse example. The world of Atzilus. Let me give you a very coarse example. We can all relate to the world of Atzilus. The world of Atzilus has 10 spheres. However, there's one sphere that is called the main focal point of Atzilus, that's the sphere of Chachma. The whole world of Atzilus is enveloped by the light of Chachma. So Alter Rebbe's Chassidus has many details in it. Of course, the Alter Rebbe wrote pages and pages, especially after he emerged from his imprisonment in Kislev, after Petersburg went down to the level of Seichel. But if we were to be so bold, make a distinction between the Alter Rebbe's Chassidus and Mitzvah Rebbe's Chassidus, we would have to say that the Alter Rebbe's Chassidus is more chachmadik. It's more about the pristine truth of things as they are in the perspective of Chacham, not like the Baal Shem Tov, which is beyond logic completely, but from the first step of logic, the ability to create the idea, the ability to look at things as they are in the logical perspective, but in logic itself, the way things are from the pristine truth of things, from the Kudas HaSeichel, from the essence of the idea, from the essence of the logical idea. That's from above to below. Peace that's coming from above. On the other hand, however, the Mittler Rebbe tried to do something quite different. The Mittler Rebbe's attribute is Bina. And what he did was, he went to the level of division, the level of understanding, the level of logic, pure logic, not the level of vision and higher than logic and chachma, but going down completely to the level of logic. And in that realm, the realm of logic, creating their peace, that every part of your mind, every part of the problem, of the question, of the subject is all syncs together in a logical, orderly way. So this is how Chassidus was revealed. When the Alter Rebbe revealed Chassidus, he did so in a way of Chachma. There was peace, but the peace came from above to below. I don't know if you heard the story I shared last night. I won't suspect all of you of doing this, especially you in Georgia, who your bedtime is at 8:30. In one part of the story, the Mittler Rebbe said that anyone who saw his father would wake up the next morning, just sing the Alter Rebbe, would wake up the next morning, and they become be completely different. They want to do tshuva, just sing the Alter Rebbe. It was impossible, he said, to see the Alter Rebbe and not wake up differently the next morning.
There was less things to do at night.
But then
Same thing happens, Rabbi, the same thing happens when I see you, to me. I'm serious.
That's you everywhere, David. I don't know.
You're a good influence, Rabbi.
No problem. So, Hapad B'Shalom, that's what the Alter Rebbe did. He caused peace from above to below. It wasn't, I'm saying the concept too sharply. The Rebbe wants to make a fine line distinction in the Alter and Middle Rebbe. The Alter Rebbe wasn't only an overwhelming personality, and seeing the Alter Rebbe enveloped you with his truth. The Alter Rebbe brought his truth down from the level of Baal Shem Tov down to the level of your soul to the level of your logic. What part of your logic? The higher parts of your logic. The part of your logic which is Chachma, which is able to see things from a very clear perspective, higher than your natural way you look at things. However, the part of B'Shalom that was achieved by the Mitzvah revelation of Chassidus, what he accomplished was a peace should become from below to above. That our mind, the way we look at things, in our human perspective, it also should accept the truths of the inner dimension of Torah. So all the parts of my mind are all transformed to being redeemed in peace. I'm not just being redeemed in peace because you're holding onto my hand and you're pulling me somewhere. I'm redeemed in peace because me, the way I look at things, my mind is also redeemed in peace. I'm able to see things. Maybe you could say like this: when you listen to the Alter Rebbe, you were listening to the Alter Rebbe. The Alter Rebbe stopped talking, so you were affected by the experience. The Middle Rebbe made it your own idea. That's why Yud Kislev is called the birthday of a chassid. What's the birthday of a chassid? That it's not just you're in your mother's womb and you're alive because you're in your mother, you're eating what your mother eats, you're drinking what your mother drinks. You're alive because you're alive. It's your own way of looking at things. So you could be alive because the Alter Rebbe is animating you, like you're still in your mother's womb. Being born as a chassid means learning chassidus in a way that it becomes your way of looking at things, your perspective, not just you're submitting yourself and you're suspending how you feel in order to acquiesce to a higher truth of your neshama, but you yourself look at things this way. That's what the Mitzvah Rebbe accomplished, and that's what we take from the redemption of the Mitzvah Rebbe. It's not sufficient to learn chassidus in a way of like these are these holy truths, and I want to do service to these holy truths. Say, Rav, good morning. I don't want to do service to these holy truths. I want this to affect me. As Rebbe Rashab says very clearly, with no uncertain terms, he says very clearly how Hashem does not like, and he doesn't like people learn chassidus for the sake of chassidus. He says, I hate them, and they don't. I don't want to say the other things he said, but you have to chassidus for your own sake because you want to get something from it. It should be yours. Just leave you the famous story of Rosh Munkus. He once was in a wagon that was traveling to Lubavitch. He got a ride to Lubavitch, and on the way to Lubavitch, he got cold, and the wagon is freezing cold in this Russian night, and he's traveling the wagon. The wagon was carrying vodka. And he asked the wagon drivers, can he have a sip of vodka from one of the barrels that was in the wagon? He says, yeah, have a sip. So he took a sip of the vodka, and he said he was warmed up. Why was he warmed up? He was surrounded by vodka before. But now he said, I put the vodka inside of me. That's the Mitzvah Rebbe. That's the redemption of Yud Kislev. Shouldn't just be you're surrounded by the vodka. We're all in a shir together. Stop. Shir's going to finish now. Now we're all going to go daven. Now you're going to go daven. What have you taken from it? Is it do you actually think differently? Does something actually changed? When you say Shalom Aleichem, Aleichem Shalom, does it mean something different to you? There's a lot that gave us over here. Anyways, any questions, comments, or criticism? Tomatoes, cucumbers.
I don't know if you mentioned it in regards to the Rebbe story on the table.
I didn't read it.
It ended off with the guy saying that the Rebbe called him over in order that he specifically say Aleichem Shalom to him, that Kiddush Levana, because he needed a specific bracha going on to his journey, becoming an attorney or something along those lines. So it's like the power of the Aleichem Shalom, especially from the Rebbe, and it was very unheard of for him to specifically ask for an individual to say the Aleichem Shalom to him.
Wow. I have to read that story, but it sounds very similar to this idea of bring the truth of Hashem into the world, that he needs something happening here. Hashem's truth should be revealed here. You know, it sounds like a very similar idea. That's very, now I'm going to read the story. A great day, Yonatan, great day, Reb Zev, great day, Reb David, great day, Aryeh, great day, Reb Beryl, great day, B'chol Mordechai. Litrot.